Thank you, Audrey. Hello, everyone. As Audrey mentioned, I'm Richard Akhtar. I'd like to introduce you to Waidroka Bay Resort in Fiji. I'm responsible for sales and marketing for Waidroka. I'm based in Colorado, just down the road from Audrey and Steve. And I've lived here for the past 6 years. Previously, I did live in Fiji for the better part of 15 years, so I certainly feel that Fiji's one of my homes. And I certainly love living in Colorado, but so far I haven't really got used to this. Barely the first week of September. As you can see, trees broken, no power. Don't get me wrong, I'd rather wake up to this than the smoke and ash, and really wish we could send some of this weather to the West Coast right now. However, it did remind me that I haven't been to Fiji in over a year now, and mixed in with some spiraling thoughts on climate change and those kind of things, I started daydreaming about this instead. Snacking on some fresh tropical fruits on Unutha Island, having just completed an amazing outer wall dive on frigates, and that was the dive that Audrey just mentioned. Eagerly waiting the best of Benga Lagoon's soft coral for the next dive. So on that note, I'd like to take a look at some Fiji diving in general. Really importantly, where the great diving in Fiji is. Talk about Waidroka, of course, and then some non-diving activities and options. And of course, introduce you to our national treasure, the people of Fiji. And finally, we'll look at some great offers that we've just introduced with travel valid all the way through 2022. So hopefully we can start turning the dream of Fiji into a reality in the not too distant future. So I've done several Zoom presentations now. I'm sure you have too. It's really weird not being able to see everyone. And I'm sure there's some familiar faces here in the audience. Normally at this point, I kind of do a quick hands raise of who's been to Fiji. I suspect quite a few, but in case not, and as I'm the first Fiji property at ScubaCon this year to present on Fiji, we'll have a very quick look at the geography of the country. And first off, you can see here, yes, Fiji's quite a long way, but my personal take on it is that with direct flights daily from LA, leaving at about 10:30 in the evening and arriving in Fiji about 6 a.m. local time, that's about 10.5 hours in the air. Fiji Airways, they have brand new planes, the A350s, which are very fuel efficient, low carbon footprint. As I said, my take is diving in Fiji is easily the most accessible of South Pacific diving there is. And when you compare it to other long-haul destinations, such as Indonesia, for instance, Fiji is really a breeze. And here's a map of the archipelago. It spans a large geographical area, 17 degrees up in the north, 19 degrees down in the south. 332 islands, I think, is the agreed upon number. 110 of those are permanently inhabited. And the original Fijians reached Fiji as early as 2000 BC, which is pretty remarkable, considering the Vikings only reached the Americas 3,000 years later, and Columbus just over 500 years ago. So their origins are still subject of quite a bit of debate, though Fiji sits right at the crossroads there of Melanesia and Polynesia. And today there are about 900,000 Fijians, and it's a multicultural, multi-faith country. So in the early days, left largely alone, due in part to their fearsome reputation, quite a few of the missionaries that went never came back, the Fijians developed a strong and complex culture that's still extremely strong today. And Fijians have a really rich tradition of storytelling, and like nothing more, than to sit around, in this instance, the kava bowl, which is the tanoa you can see there, and talanoa, which is their version of shooting the breeze in the company of friends. And today, that culture is still extremely strong, and there's a lot of pride in that history and tradition, and a strong desire to share it openly with all of those who visit. And above all, the one thing that people take away from Fiji is what we call the Bula spirit in Fiji. That's the happy welcome that you receive and the friends that you make when you're there. And that is often what brings travelers back to Fiji time and again. And I'm sure that those here who've been to Fiji will be nodding in agreement at this point. It really is no cliche that Fijians must be amongst the happiest people on earth. Moving from the people to the underwater world, Fiji boasts about 4% of the planet's reefs, huge marine biodiversity, around about 1,800 species of fish and counting. And I say and counting. When I first moved there in 2002, the number recorded was around 1,200. So obviously Fiji being so desirable that a lot of fish have moved in since then. Okay, that was an attempt at Zoom humor. I've yet to crack it. It's not going to stop me trying. But putting the fish number in perspective, the Caribbean, where I love to dive myself, has a steady recorded 300 Atlantic species. So that versus 1,800, you can really see that there's an exponential difference in hopping across the Pacific. Fiji also boasts probably the healthier, most resilient reefs in the world. And that's not just my biased opinion. You can certainly review the research, and there's a number of fascinating factors that contribute to this fact. One certainly is diving pressure, and it still amazes me that for the world-class dive destination that Fiji is, there are only a few dive operators in each key dive area. And it's true, you can often dive for days without seeing another dive boat. And we are a year-round dive destination, warm tropical waters. As I mentioned before, we are between 17 and 19 degrees south of the equator. So there is quite a bit of seasonal variation. Midsummer, which would be January, February time, you can expect 84, 86 degrees. Midwinter, August, September, can be as cool as 78 or maybe even 75. So this variation does, of course, help with the health of the reefs, but it's important to know. So light shorty in the summer and definitely 5mm full suit in the winter. And the stats shown here on this slide are certainly impressive. However, there are distinct dive hotspots in Fiji. And if traveling all the way from the US to Fiji to dive, it's important to know where they are, so you can narrow down your choices and decision of where to stay. And here we are on the map. Here's those hotspots. You can quickly narrow down your choice of where to visit in Fiji to dive to 4 distinct areas. Within each of these areas, there are only a handful of full-service dive operators, which really helps you narrow down your choice even more. And all these areas are distinctly different, and in no particular order I'll go through them, apart from, of course, the big red legend there, which I'll go through in detail. So up at the top, there's the Rainbow Reef. That's accessed off an island called Taveuni. That strait of water running through here is pretty shallow with really deep water on either side. So you get very strong currents coming either one way or the other. Brings a lot of life into there. And then you have this area here, a large area called Bly Water, really known for deep offshore drop-offs. Great diving. I believe one of the resorts based here, Volley, is going to, the dives in Blywater will be presenting later. Down south, you have a large hard coral reef called the Astrolabe Reef, which is very, very different yet again from some of the other dives in Fiji. And then the area that's our playground is Benga Lagoon, based on the main island here, right here. So I'm going to move on from talking about Fiji in general to our resort, Waidroka. So we're a small private resort, as you saw on Viti Levu, which is Fiji's main island. We're tucked away in the rainforest on a private lagoon looking out over Benga Lagoon, which is our dive area. We're just over 2 hours from the airport, and the resort itself is around about 2 miles off the main road over a hilltop peninsula. So that gives us great privacy and a small island feeling of being completely away from it all, while still retaining all the benefits of being on the main island. One of those being no further flights or boat transfers. So when you take your direct flight from LA to Nadi Airport in Fiji, you have your full luggage allowance available to you to bring straight to the resort. You'll land early in the morning, get to the resort in time for breakfast, and for those keen to jump in, you can start diving straight away. With only 12 rooms on 11 acres of grounds, we're also an intimate property, which allows for us to place a huge priority on personal service and attention. And I think especially at this time, and possibly the new norm for travel, we feel that the intimate aspect will be hugely attractive to travelers no longer wishing to be in busier or more crowded environments. And this is why we've coined the phrase here, Fijian home away from home. Our 12 rooms come in 3 categories, as shown on the slide here. And all the rooms are air conditioned, mini fridges, ceiling fans, tea, coffee making facilities. And we'll have another look at them here. This picture gives you a good idea of the layout. The panoramic rooms, which you might have seen mentioned there, are in a hotel style block here at the top of the resort. They're set up quite high. You should note that if looking at the various options at Waidroka, it's about 80 to 90 steps up here. Does, of course, afford you amazing views when you get up there. And the remaining rooms are bure style, which is the Fijian kind of equivalent of a self-contained chalet. And you can see these dotted around down here at the resort level of the property. Private gardens and grounds are really great space to enjoy. And as we're on a bay and the only road in ends at our front gate, nothing passes us by apart from the occasional boat on the ocean. And on site, we have a restaurant, pool, 2 bars, one of which is poolside, volleyball court, a yoga and fitness studio, pool table, massage bure, and free kayaks and stand-up paddle boards available for use for all our guests. And for dining, we offer a number of options, including family style for larger groups, multiple indoor and outdoor options for families and couples. And our food represents both local and international cuisine, and healthy eating options are always available, as well as being able to cater for a majority of food intolerances and preferences. Our chef Manasa represented Fiji in the Pacific Island Food Revolution last year, which was the biggest cooking competition in the Pacific. Manasa and his teammate were the eventual runners-up in the whole competition. So you can expect the best of culinary experiences here with us at Waidroka. And here's another view of the resort looking back from the ocean, where you can see the room layout again. Also the dive shop this time, and the 2 main dive boats that we have. And they're up here with the panoramic rooms that I had pointed out to you, the main resort complex itself, and the bures, the deluxe bures, tucked in here. So now I'm going to move on to talk about some of the activities that you can do in and from Waidroka. A majority of our guests are serious scuba divers, but as you'll see, there are multiple options for non-divers, couples and families looking to have options to relax and also be active. There's really something for everyone here at Waidroka, and all at a great price point, which we'll come on to have a look at, especially our 5-night plus packages. We have our own in-house dive center. We're a PADI dive center, managed and operated by our resident dive professionals, offering everything from try dive and learn to dive experiences to exploring offshore pinnacles which have never been dived before. Our playground, as I mentioned, is Benga Lagoon. The resort sits and looks out over Benga Lagoon, which is one of the key diving hotspots in Fiji, and has in fact been tagged the soft coral capital of the world. Dives there are typified by fish smothered, soft coral covered pinnacles, as you can see here. And at the edge of the lagoon is Frigate's Passage, which is an exhilarating deep water offshore drop-off, where you can also get a lot of pelagic action as well. And lastly, our area is also really well known for the famous Fiji shark dive, which is one of the best known shark dives in the world. And you can see up to 8 species regularly, including, you get a lot of bull sharks on the dive, maybe 20, 30, 40, even 50, and occasionally a tiger shark as well. And so we dive this regularly, and we do it from our own boats. You get on the boat at the resort, and you dive the dive with our own boat, and also our own crew look after you down on the dive. And this dive is included in all of our dive packages for those who want this experience. How do we run our diving? I guess as a full service dive resort, we have a fleet of 5 boats. I showed you the 2 main ones. Most of the ones that would really dive, you'd be diving on, with 12 each on the boat, split into 2 groups of 6, each with dive professionals with them. We generally decide where we're going to dive on the day. If we're starting particularly early, we'd have a briefing before at dinner the night before, but otherwise a briefing at breakfast time and leaving it around about 8:30 in the morning. If we're doing 2 tanks, we'll be back in time for lunch. If we're doing 3 tanks, which we often do, allows us to go further afield and explore, then we'll take lunch out on the boat and return home mid to late afternoon. Of course, all gear is taken care of for you, rinsing, hanging. All that you need to do is relax, and it is always happy hour when the boat gets back. So here's a slide summing up some of the key points I've mentioned. But one of the highlights for me is the huge variety of diving that we access from Waidroka. There's certainly something for everyone. You may have noticed on the last slide that we even have a wreck there. And I'd go as far to say as we have the largest variety of dive sites in any one area anywhere in Fiji. The diving is exclusive. As I mentioned, there's not much, this is true of Fiji in general, there's really not that much diving pressure. But the fact that we're really the only resort to dive frigates on a regular basis is to me incredible. And if you're thinking about joining a group trip or doing multi-generational trip of a lifetime with family and friends, another unique aspect that we offer is with 20 people, we guarantee you the whole resort exclusively. Moving topside. Due to where we're based, we're about 25 minutes from a small town called Pacific Harbour. They're the self-styled adventure capital of Fiji. In addition to scuba diving, we're also able to offer a huge variety of ocean, land-based cultural and adventure activities topside. Some are offered in-house, such as surfing, fishing, island trips. Others are provided by excellent third-party operators, all offering the highest standard experiences. Not going to list them all, but I want to go through a few just to give you a quick visual taste of all the other options in addition to diving that are available. For the surfers, it's well known that Fiji has some of the best surfing waves anywhere in the world. And we had been talking about frigates as an amazing dive area. It just so happens to have an internationally acclaimed wave too. And we're maybe one of 2 or 3 resorts in the whole of Fiji that surfs here because of our accessibility to this area and wave. And uniquely, it's therefore always completely uncrowded, which is unheard of in the surfing world. And we have in-house instructors and guides that can take surfers on these waves. Moving away from the ocean, this is one of my favorite things to do in Fiji when I'm not diving. And that's just rafting on the upper Navua Gorge. You raft down this canyon, the scenery is truly breathtaking. And you get some rafting action on some class 3, and if it's really pumping, class 4 rapids. And the guys are all local and they make the day the hugest fun. It's accessible to all ages, 8 years and up, and really most fitness levels. So everybody can participate. But if you want to take things a little easier, a little lower down the river, the lower reaches of the Navua don't disappoint either. And of course, no river trip in Fiji would be complete without jumping into some waterfalls. There are many to choose from and offer a very welcome cool off and also a natural massage from a day on the river. And huge fun for kids or kids at heart, zip lining in the rainforest canopy or cave exploring. Each cave in Fiji has its own legend associated with it, so you get to learn all about that. And as I mentioned, all the tours are provided to the highest standards of not only fun and enjoyment, but health and safety, which is very strong in Fiji. And if you get chance, the interior of the main island of Viti Levu is truly beautiful and can only really be seen on foot. And we organize day trips or for the truly adventurous multi-day trips with village stays. And these are all organized by us and arranged by us at Waidroka with local operators. And when not out and about on the water or a land-based adventure, quite a number of in-house pamper options. And finally, our in-house yoga studio is always available for your own practice or instructor-led practice, as well as stretching and fitness classes. So I'm coming to the end now of the presentation, so I just want to wind up with a few slides and review and some thoughts. And there are a couple of points on this slide which were not raised before, but I think are pretty relevant to the time that we're in. Fiji has a really great tourist infrastructure. It's English speaking, English is the national language. That makes things really easy when trying to communicate maybe some needs that are quite involved, and has first world medical facilities and is extremely well connected not only to the US but regionally with, in normal times, multiple flights daily to Australia and New Zealand, as well as the daily flight to the US. And this last point obviously gives huge options to those wanting to extend their adventure beyond Fiji, but also peace of mind to travelers in the post-COVID travel landscape. Incidentally, Fiji just topped a recent published study of the 15 safest places to travel when borders open. And I won't go into the study in detail because I'm sure there are many such headlines flying around these days. But importantly, Fiji had to date 0 cases of community transmission of COVID. The only cases they've had have been Fijians returning home from abroad. And clearly there's a huge amount of work to be done on logistics and keeping the country safe and COVID contained before opening up borders to non-COVID contained countries. But when that happens, we can be comfortable and confident that travel to Fiji as a destination. And again, I've listed a few points here that sum up things I've spoken about in the presentation. And I won't go through those line by line either, but I do want to re-emphasize that Waidroka offers a true Fijian dive vacation experience, a host of amenities, relaxation and adventure opportunities with a home away from home feel, and a personal touch, all in an intimate setting far from the crowds. The small scale and intimacy may become increasingly important as the face of future travel starts to define itself. And as this is already what we've been delivering for the last 16 years, we feel uniquely placed in this arena. We're also closely able to monitor and manage our environment, and maybe giving more comfort and peace of mind to visitors as travel opens up again. And all our policies with this respect are clearly highlighted on our website and other communications. And finally, and really importantly, our scale also means that we can work very closely with the team here at Weavers to tailor experience to each individual customer or group wish list. As Audrey mentioned, she's leading a group to Waidroka in May next year, which you might seriously consider as an option. But of course, if you prefer to do your own thing and travel independently, the team can help you with that too. And to give you a quick idea of our price point, here are 2 packages showing the great value that we offer at Waidroka. And I'm sure you'll agree that these, given the inclusions here, 15 dives, all meals, the accommodation, airport transfers for the 7-night, and there for the 9 dives for the 5-night. This is truly great value. And we've pulled out all the stops to bring this price point to market at this time. And as mentioned also by Audrey, this is our giveaway today is buy one and get one free, minimum 5 nights, but from there, anything that you want, we'll match with a second giveaway. Before I finish, I just want to bring it back to our friends in Fiji to have the final word. So hopefully I'll make this work, and here we go. Apparently I can't. Okay.
Richard, you might need to stop your screen share if you're going to go to a different screen.
Oh, I'm on a second screen. But yes, this normally just plays. There we go.
Got it.
Yeah. Got it.
Voila! I've been thinking, there are not many billionaires around here, but there are plenty billionaires. Voila!
Voila! Voila!
Voila! A billionaire is a person rich with happiness. Here in Fiji, Bula is more than just a greeting. It's a wish for happiness, good health, and the energy of life. We want to share with the whole world. Bula! Bula! After all, why have the last laugh when you can have the first? Hey! Billionaires, the people who are rich, rich with happiness. Share in Fiji's bully spirit and meet the people who are rich in happiness.
And on that note, I'd like to say Vinaka Vakaleva, which is thank you very much in Fijian, and handing back over to Audrey.
Vinaka, Richard, that video definitely makes me miss all my friends in Fiji.
That was awesome.
I feel fortunate. I was in Fiji in February, so I've been there more recently than you have.
Yes.
Right before coronavirus locked us down, actually.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm really excited to go back next May and go back to Waidroka and get to see all the sharks in Banga Lagoon and the coral reefs. So we did have a few questions from people.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned the yoga studio and the instructor. Are
Yes.
there classes available, and are those additional cost at the resort?
Classes are available, and they are free of charge.
Cool. Do they need to book in advance, or can they book while they're there?
No, it's just organized at the resort. Generally, it's after the activities of the day, unless you're choosing to sit out for the day, or there's a day free of diving. However, it can be done really early in the morning. The sessions are basic, and timing is basically tailored to what people are feeling. If you're there not as part of the group with the whole resort, the surfers very actively take up some of the sessions. They like to do their surf and stretching exercises too. But if there's anything, if you want it tailored in a certain way, you can certainly work with the instructor to do that.
Yeah, maybe we could specialize in some special scuba diving stretching.
Scuba diving stretching.
Exactly. So we had someone ask about snorkeling. Is there snorkeling from the shore, or is it mostly from boats if people wanted to snorkel?
It's mostly from boats. We have a pontoon that sits in front of the resort that you can snorkel from, but it's really no problem to get. And we have mangroves either side of us. I love snorkeling in the mangroves. It's not coral snorkeling. But so we can quickly get you to a really nice snorkel site on one of the small boats that just zip out.
Yeah, I remember when I was there being able to go through the mangroves in the kayaks. I spent a whole afternoon doing that and just dipping in and seeing all the fish and tons of birds too.
It's very different experience. I love it, exploring the mangroves.
Another question is, so for the rafting in Navua Gorge, how long does it take to get there?
About an hour.
An hour?
Yeah. So, and 40 minutes of that is quite bumpy. It's interior unpaved roads. I personally think it's part of the adventure. So you have to obviously head up into the interior. You gain quite a bit of elevation to get up to the gorge there. But it's a full day trip. So you're going to be including. So you have lunch on the river. I think start to finish, you're probably out and about for about 8 hours.
Nice. That sounds like a fun day though. When you're not.
It is great.
diving.
It's a great day. Yeah.
We did have a question as well. What does Waidroka mean?
River runs through it, or something like that.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah. So there's a little stream that comes through, and I think that's what it means.
Yeah. So it is. I know it's a private property, kind of surrounded by a lot of private property. Is there a beach nearby that people can access?
You can kayak. Mostly we pop people on a boat and go out and leave you on a beach with a cell phone. So you can let us know when you want to come back, and you can take a picnic or and snorkel gear and things like that. So yeah, it's not it's a little bit more involved to get to a beach, but we can put plenty of beach experiences into the trip.
I mean, a lot of divers know that the better the beach, the worse the diving, really. And
Well,
mangroves really are important and add a lot to the property.
Absolutely. And as you saw from one of the slides there, that we like to do surface intervals out on those beaches, and we can, if you want a kind of Robinson Crusoe type experience, we can certainly take you out to those deserted atolls, again with all of the bits and pieces that you need, and a cell phone to stay in touch.
Yeah, I think that's something that's super special about Fiji, you know, where a lot of people, when you're used to traveling to the Caribbean, it has to be a kind of, not a big ordeal, but more organization is involved. Whereas in Fiji, it is kind of if you want to do it, it can happen, and it's not really a big deal.
No. And that's a very important point, Audrey. And people need to feel comfortable in letting people know what they want to do, because the answer in Fiji is invariably yes. They have the phrase Senga Nalenga, which is Hakuna Matata, no worries. And literally everything is Senga Nalenga. So it just gets done.
Oh, I love saying Senga Nalenga to anyone. They always put piles, and it's one of my favorite phrases as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. Everyone, you need to be sure to check out Waidroka Bay Resort near Benga Lagoon on Fiji. Please join me next May 22nd through the 27th. We're doing a 5-night extension there. If you want to go on another time, please just let us know. We can get it set up.